Hey, so you finally got that LS in, right? And now you're like, oh man, now I need to know like what's going on with my motor so I don't blow it up, because we don't want to blow that up. So we got to get some gauges. For me, I need oil pressure at least, so I need to add an oil pressure gauge. I also need to know how hot my motor is, so I need a water temperature gauge. And so I don't run out of fuel and look like a dork, I need to get a fuel gauge in my car. So let me show you how I do that. Oh, and by the way, I'm gonna do that for under 100 bucks. First you gotta start out and you gotta find gauges that'll fit somewhere in your car. So for me, I got lucky because I had to buy a radio bezel and the cheapest one had holes for gauges. Can you believe it? So I'm like, what am I gonna do with those stupid holes? Am I gonna fill them in? Well, realized later on, I need gauges, which is perfect. So they were 2 1/16 of an inch gauges. So I looked for gauges that are and that's pretty much the standard size. Do they fit? We'll get to that later, okay? So then you've got to order your gauges, and I kind of wanted gauges that looked similar. So some of the cheaper gauges, they only make certain ones. So I had to kind of go through a whole bunch of searches on Amazon to find the right ones. Finally, I found the water temperature and the oil pressure from the same cheap company with the sensors, and then I had to make it work with the LS, which we'll get to that in a little bit, how you make those gauges work with your car. And then I had to find a fuel level gauge that would work with my aftermarket tank, because my tank was so expensive to replace, I had to go with a fuel cell. That's a whole nother story though. Then you have to place them in and kind of see if they fit right. Make sure they fit in those holes. Mine didn't, spoiler alert. I had to change that. I had to modify a little bit, which is no big deal. That's what you do. You know, you're a car builder. You've got to make little changes. You got to be able to work on the fly. These things that, if it's not a factory part, you're going to have to modify it probably. That's just the truth of it. Now that we have the gauges and we have them in the bezel, now we need to wire them up. Well, the gauges usually come with a wiring diagram. If they don't, send them back and get you some new ones. Anyway, they're usually going to have a wire for your lights, for your ignition, for your ground, and for the signal from the sensor, because they're electronic gauges. You don't want to get mechanical gauges. That's like from the 70s, or maybe even like for a Model A Ford. You don't want that. Okay, so now that you've got it wired up, you want to run your wires nice and pretty. You want to make connections that are solid. You want to use your right crimpers, whatever size wires you run. Use the appropriate ones. I like to use heat shrinks. I like to cover mine with sleeves, but you can easily just wrap them. I prefer Tesla tape wrap. It's definitely much better than other solutions out there to me. Now that you've got your wires run, now you've got to connect it all together to make it all work, because that's the whole purpose of this, to hook all this stuff together and to make it work, and also make it to where you can service it later on. And then once you do that, now you have to test your car, fire it up, make sure there's no leaks, first of all, and then if there's no leaks, then you can test to make sure they work. Now, how do you make those gauges work in an LS? Well, some gauges are universal, like 1/8 NPT. So what you do is you get an adapter fitting that will allow you to screw your sensors into the LS block. For me, I picked these up on Amazon. It was a 2-pack set, one for the water hole and one for the oil pressure. Now with the water temperature, the cool thing about that was each head has a hole for water temperature sensor. You're usually only using the driver's side front one. So what I did is I hooked mine in, obviously, to the passenger rear one. You just take out the plug, put the adapter in, put the sensor in. Now, these are supposed to work, but of course they did not work because the sensor needs to go in there. So I had to drill those out and make sure that you're taking your time and only going 1/64 of an inch thicker on each one if you're going to do that like me, because I've yet to find one that you can just use those water temperature sensors on. Now before I can test this, I do have to lift the car up, because when I put the coils over its ends, I didn't know exactly how high to set them, and with the LS my car sits a little too low, and we do not want to ruin all this beautiful paintwork on the car. So let's raise this up. I measured the back, and then I'm going to make the front the same height. Then we're going to see how that looks, and then we can continue on with the sensors. As with any project car, there are always little things that come up, and you got to be able to work on the fly, and you got to be able to make little changes. You got to be flexible in what your vision is, because if you try to be hard set on things, it's really going to make things slower. So if you come across issues, just take a break, go do something else, go hang out with your friends, eat some pizza, have some food, tell some jokes, whatever. I don't know, whatever you do for fun. Because remember, life isn't all about kissing hands and shaking babies.